יהיו לרצון, אמרה אמרה פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי, וגואלי לפניך. El Harachaman, good sweet God, you've taken a beloved friend. We gather and raise our voices today in prayer to the source of life, asking for comfort and strength and the power to move on. Death has taken Darrell. He is so missed. If you are hearing my voice today, whether here in this sanctuary or on live stream, Darrell Young is telling you it's okay to laugh. It's okay to smile and remember all the times he was relentless on you. It hurts. It hurts when a loved one dies. If you're here, if you are reflecting on Darrell Young's life and his deeds and his achievements, then you know how good it was. Let it still be good. Let his life, his character, his humility, his hopes give you a smile. Ezehu Ashir, the Proverbs say, who is rich? Hasameach bechelko, the one who is content with their lot. Can you imagine knowing a man more content than Darrell? More capable of conveying it? What a gift. What a deep and profound gift. Dear friends, my name is Rob Nosenchuk. I'm one of the clergy at Anshe Chesed Fairmount Temple. Honored to help pay homage to Darrell Young's life today with my colleagues, Cantor Laureate Sarah Sager, Cantor Vladimir Lapin. We're here to express, through the tenderness of memory, the gifts of Darrell's heart and mind that brought us all joy and happiness. And as a way of affirming that from the very outset of this tribute, Andy asked to share a few words of gratitude and appreciation. Help you up over this way.
First thing I'm going to try to get out calmly is to thank everybody for coming. You all have obligations, you have things to do. Darrell would be amazed at this crowd. And I thank you. For my sons, this is such a tribute to him. So thank you, thank you. I also am a half glass full. I will miss him terribly. We had 54 years together and 52 years married. It was a great marriage because we evolved, we grew, we just grew as human beings. And I remember one time saying to Darrell, "Aren't you proud of us?" And he said, "Yeah, I really am." So I'm really proud. Like I said, I'll miss him terribly, but I'm really, really proud of the years we had together. Also, it's amazing to me the tributes and the things that are coming in and being said about him. And Darrell would be shocked because any thing he ever did. He didn't look for his name in stationery. He didn't look, send me a steak or this or that. It was from his heart. That's who my Darrell was. That's who he was. He would be shocked at all this amazing tributes. But that was the beauty of him too. And the third thing I want to say is family was so important to him. And this isn't just about Darrell's. His three brothers lost a really, really important part of their lives. So it's just not about Darrell. It's about those boys too. And those boys have been incredible to me forever. And as recently I had to do a Zoom, and I called Brian and Neil. I said, I can't do this. I need another pair of ears. These are big things to talk about, your brother. I need another pair of ears. And I've teased them. I said it was like the White Knight. These two guys walked in. They did everything with the video, and everything I've done the last 4, 5, 6, or 7 is notes, copious notes. So they were there like they've always been there for all of us. And the fact that all these nieces and nephews came in from out of town, all my nieces and nephews came in from Florida. And some of them are still in Florida crying because they adored him. He loved all those nieces and nephews. He loved them. So it also epitomizes how important family was to Darrell. This whole week and this whole situation proves that was his value system. That was who he was. And he would have been real happy about this whole thing. And in my belief, I think he's kind of seeing all this stuff. So again, I thank you all for everything you've done and tributes. And like I said, I'll miss him terribly. But I know how lucky we were. We were lucky. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, for those beautiful words and for your courage, your grace, your strength, and your clearly abiding love. Friends, no one wants to be here today. Not for this service, not for this purpose, not for this man. It seems as if we just saw him, just spoke with him, just planned a project with his guidance, just attended a meeting for his input. There was something about Darrell Young that makes each of us feel personally his loss, even while we grieve for our community that he served with such willingness and generosity, with his buoyant spirit and light touch, with his unfailing ease and naturalness, his genuine desire to be of service, with his time, his talent, his smarts and expertise, his optimism and humor, his loving spirit, and sheer Menschlichkeit. Thinking of him, I am reminded of a Talmudic interpretation of a verse from Isaiah, in which the rabbis play with two homonyms, two words that are spelled the same and have similar pronunciations, but have different meanings. Isaiah envisions a world at peace when we are all students of Torah, of God's Torah. The rabbis expand upon this idea by saying, Do not call them in Hebrew, banayich, your children. Rather, call them in Hebrew, bonayich, your builders of peace. The idea being that students of Torah bring peace to the world, or students of Torah help to build a world of peace. I had the great good fortune to know Darrell and Andrea for over 40 years. I knew him first as a member of our congregation, as the husband of Andrea and the proud father of Spencer and Jordan, and one of the 4 young brothers. I took great pleasure in the leadership roles he assumed over the years at Fairmont Temple, and then encountered him again as a past president of our Mandel JCC. We know Darrell was a builder, and though he would laugh at the notion, he was a student of Torah in the way he conducted himself, in the way he treated others, in the way he loved Andrea and his children, his brothers and their families, and in the way he was a true builder of this community. He brought his professional knowledge, expertise, and excellence to countless structures, spaces, projects, and new builds. What made him the leader and beloved member of our community, however, was that he also and always brought his neshama, his gute neshama, his good soul, his righteous presence, his loving spirit to his endeavors, his interests and activities, his relationships, and every interaction. In his humble, unassuming, matter-of-fact way, he made a difference. When Darrell was engaged or in charge, we breathed easier. We felt lighter, positive, hopeful, and expectant. He made us feel cared for, secure, safe. If Darrell was involved, that was always a good sign. If Darrell was involved, we all felt a greater sense of purpose and involvement. If Darrell was involved, all would be well. He raised the bar. He showed us what it means to be a lover of Torah, and in all of his actions, he was a builder of peace. We pray that he has found eternal peace while we continue to build a better world in his memory.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
the entire young family, so grateful for your presence. Should only know how much it means. Ata imadi, thou art with me. That's the faith expressed by the psalmist, and a psalm we'll express in just a moment. The family invites you, if you wish, to continue to observe and support them, to join them after this service. Here that we are grateful is hosted at the sanctuary of the Temple-Tifereth, Israel. We're grateful to its leadership, its clergy, its membership for their hospitality today. Of course, like every other edifice in town, Darrell built the place, renovated it. But after the interment at Beit Olam Cemetery, family will gather at Point East at the community room, beginning at 3 o'clock this afternoon, continuing until 6 o'clock before Shabbat. That's at 27500 Cedar Road in Beechwood. On Monday and Tuesday, they will continue to observe Shiva from 2 to 4 p.m. and 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. They invite you, if you wish to honor Darrell's life, to do so, if you wish, with a gift of tzedakah, to be generous, with American Cancer Society, Magen David Adom, the Mandel Jewish Community Center, or our Anshe Chesed Fairmount Temple. I invite you to join with me in the recitation of the 23rd Psalm. We say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen." The Lord is my shepherd. Something about that King James version of the 23rd Psalm etches it more firmly in our minds than just about any other passage in the Bible. As respectful of Jewish values and tradition as Darrell Young was, as my congregant and my friend, I know that his favorite biblical passage was the one he felt he wanted to say when services went too long at Temple. The verse where Moses pleads with the Pharaoh, "Let my people go." The man hated to be stuck in one place, trapped, held back from movement and opportunities. If you knew Darrell, you knew the man had shpilchus, ants in his pants. No matter what obstacles were in front of Darrell, professional or personal domains, no matter what challenges he had to face, the man kept moving. He refused to stay trapped. "Let my people go" is a popular refrain of the Passover Seder, which he truly relished among the holidays, especially in these last couple of years, being able to connect the dots once again and not have to be on anybody's Zoom Seder at all. It occurs to me that at too young an age, Darrell had to take on the role of the one convening family gatherings, setting its tone. He and Stephen, Brian, and Neil and their mom, the late Mardell, had been exposed to the trauma of their dad Howard's death when he was just in his 40s. The Young family knew well the valley of shadows to which Psalm 23 refers. It's a brief passage, but its exquisitely detailed words tell us of the path to travel that get us from being plunged in a dark valley to ultimately arriving at the gratitude that Darrell expressed in his life all the way until his death in the verse, "My cup runneth over." That's how he felt. Contemporary Rabbi David Wolpe of Sinai Temple in Los Angeles advises us to take notice of the word that gets us from here to there. The most important word, he says, in all of Psalm 23. "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Rabbi Wolpe says the word to take notice of is walk. Walk. The composer of the Psalms is driving home a message in the way Darrell was with so many of us. He wants us to stay on the move. We must walk forward. Who am I kidding? This is the way Darrell was with anyone privileged to come into the presence and the lives of he and Andrea, Jordan, and Spencer. This was a gift to anyone who ever had the opportunity to encounter him anywhere, in the marketplace, in the multiple agencies impacted by his and Andy's presence and generosity. Darrell Young was direct, encouraging, optimistic, and exacting. He told you exactly what his expectations were, he told you when you met them, and he told you when you missed meeting them. Just this morning, Brian was saying to me that even if his big brother's direct feedback wasn't so easy to hear at first, he never wanted to hurt. He wanted you to get up and keep moving and learn. Brian said you'd finish a difficult conversation even if Darrell was disappointed in what you'd produced, not feeling scolded, but encouraged and believed in. That's not easy to do, not easy to accomplish or communicate, especially when, because of converging careers, family business, and opportunities, Darrell and Stephen, Neil, and Brian, they all did business with one another in addition to developing rich and family-loving ties. It seems to me that they remained capable of being brothers, teammates, colleagues, and dear and loving friends to one another, special aunts and uncles, along with Andy, Wendy, Dee Dee, and Ellen, because Darrell was the leader of that pack. As the family has drawn strength from him through numerous previous challenges, Darrell led the way. He blazed the trail. He was the scout taking measure of what might come next. I met Darrell at a Super Bowl party 15 years ago. I was late. It was February, and I was landing in Cleveland to get here. And I kidded him when I met him, which is the same thing I did with his brother Brian, that how could Darrell be the one who was a member of the temple and Brian be the president of the temple, but Darrell's hair be the silvery gray that it was, and Brian seemed pretty brown-haired at the time. Darrell didn't tell me that he had been the president of 3 other Jewish agencies in town. He wouldn't have told any of us. It wasn't about being the captain, though he was an excellent captain. He was on a team. And I'm told that he got the silver white hair when he was like 25. But he wasn't about it. Not about being the leader and the scout known for being the leader, but just about doing good things. Darrell and Andy together, each in one another's families, have passed through other hardships. They set their eyes always on that word in Psalm 23. When life hurts, painful experiences wound you, listen to what Andy said at the outset of the service. When you feel fragile, when you feel hurt, don't stay there. Don't stay in the valley. Rabbi Wolpe teaches, when trapped by grief, overcome by sorrow, don't make grief a permanent state. Let the shadow give way to light. And that's hard today. Given the circumstances of the world right now, the wars that remain brutal, heated, especially in Israel and Gaza, the injustices on the rise in the US and even here in Ohio and in Cleveland, the harm's way in which our community might ultimately feel, the challenges and opportunities actually still faced by every nonprofit that Darrell gave his time, including the temple where we've gathered here in our Fairmount Temple, which, as Cantor mentioned, we've been graced to know him and his family for more than 4 decades. For all of these places, the only way out of seemingly intractable, insurmountable challenges is through. I remember getting texts from Andy and Darrell immediately after last April's fire at our synagogue. He'd already been on the horn with a whole squad of folks who could help our executive director, Juliana Centuria, begin the process of rehabilitating our building. Andy promised in 2 trusted words what she and Darrell could bring to bear, because that's how they do it. Sweat equity, she called it. She knew then what she is, as heartbroken as she is today. She knew that you gotta stay in motion. You gotta know people are at your back when you're hurting. One way or another, you gotta take your next step. And Andy, we, your friends and your loved ones, we pledge that to you today. You are not alone. We are at your back. When your family today parts with Darrell's physical presence, no one will deny you are standing in the valley of shadows. But you won't have to stay there. Darrell's telling all of us to walk. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose life we honored on Shabbat just a couple of weeks ago, before Darrell died, the same night as the yard site for his mother, Mardell, taught that to achieve a world that is more just and righteous, you have to take the first step. Take it in faith. You don't see the whole staircase. Take the first step. Such words are guidance to us when unexpected things happen, things we hadn't foreseen even when the week began. It's frightening, but also negligent to stay paralyzed, even when you're distressed. A new day is rising. It's hard to remember that on a mournful February day, but just consider this. Today, the sky will darken in Cleveland when the sun sets at 5:42 p.m. A month from now, it will remain light until 6:19. 2 months from now, the same sky will stay lit up and bright till 7:54 p.m. To put an even more optimistic spin on my reminder, 2 months from now, when our skies are lit to nearly 8 o'clock on Friday evening, I expect that Darrell believed the Cleveland Guardians would be winning their 6th game of their season against the Seattle Mariners. Brian will see it's a miracle. After 15 years, he turned me into a Cleveland fan. Let me be clear, though Darrell did not know we'd be here today, he'd want our attention not to be on the traumas of this week. I talked with him a couple of times just last week. He wants us to look forward, to see paths ahead, and to feel hope and gratitude and opportunities. There's no need to ask what happened to him. If you are hearing my voice in this sanctuary or by live stream, know this: Darrell loved his life. That's what happened to him. Concentrate on loving your life and carrying on. Darrell was born just a few months after the birth of the State of Israel, November 14th, 1948, the eldest of the sons of the late Howard and Mardell. At the time, the family lived at Lenox and Fairmount, later would move to Edgewood Road and Beechwood. By the time he reached adulthood, Darrell would be described by so many the way he's been described all week: bigger than life. But that might have also been his lifelong trait, and it didn't always make life so easy on Howard and Mardell. Given that Darrell's bigness was big and bravado, and that even a negative mark on a report card or any rule he decided to bend, if not break, didn't make things so much easier for them. But apparently, according to his brothers, a bit more studious than their eldest brother Darrell, it wasn't so hard to follow in those footsteps. Not at that time, not in that way. He wore his parents out. Legend tells he once got so beneath Howard's skin that Howard threatened to toss the milk out of his glass at his son's face. Darrell gave him a good Clint Eastwood look and dared him to do so. The man could take a glass of milk in his face, and he did. Stephen said the thing Darrell could distinguish from at an early age was just that his parents had different priorities than him. He not only didn't feel grades or degrees defined an education, he went ahead in life to prove it. The man became a captain, an innovator, and leader in his industry, first working with his dad and uncle in real estate construction and development, and then when circumstances changed suddenly, started over. Built Stephen, construction business, even more set to succeed, but carrying on in the same family tradition that had been for his dad, Hanan. He named the new business for Howard, carrying his father's good name in front of him every single day, permanently, among all of his other investments. As Spencer and Jordan came into his life, he knew the blessings of fatherhood and cherished them. And as each have set their sights upon other stars than following their dad in the real estate business, he respected their paths to individuate and find meaning in their own endeavors in work and personal life. Always honest and direct with them, they are among the few of us gathered here today to whom he'd admit some of the things he feared. But he relished their accomplishments. He literally said to me recently, "I wish people would stop asking me, how am I? Ask me how Spencer and Jordan are. Talk to me about Andy. Show me a picture of your grandchildren. Ask me about my nieces and nephews. Tell me where you're going on vacation." He genuinely in his heart wanted to be in relationship. He had a hard time receiving thank yous for big or small deeds of kindness or generosity. That was his trademark. In Jewish tradition, we call this value anava, humility. It is, in my view, essential if you're going to pass through a valley of shadows and live a life of hope. You don't believe your own hype. You go to an event in this community where Darrell and Andrea are being feted for all they did for Montefiore or Mandel JCC or Ort or Fairmont Temple, and by the end of what Darrell says from his heart, you suddenly feel proud of yourself and thanked. He made you feel genuinely seen. Speaking of being seen, I have to call attention to a party at Ohio State in Columbus, where Darrell earned his college degree. While making and sustaining many friends there, the most important thing that happened to Darrell in Columbus wasn't school. It was a beautiful and smart young woman, Andrea Cowan from Dayton, who came to the same party as Darrell, perhaps with an eye still longing back to Dayton for a boyfriend back there. But she took notice across the room of Darrell's bigger-than-life presence. Yeah, he was handsome, and his laugh could grab the attention of any of us, even at a noisy gathering. She pictures him there with his black pants, yellow shirt, and penny loafers. But Andy says what she took most notice of were his beautiful hands. She saw his hands, and she knew she would walk away from that party holding those hands. 54 years later, we gather here, knowing they were married in Dayton on June 13th of 1971, their hands and hearts linked ever since, through thick and thin. And he remembers how he allowed her to advise him, and he took her guidance when he might be tempted to overreact, be overprotective. She'd chide him if she thought his kibitzing to really everybody wasn't always landing the way he had intended. She was taken by the profound and effusive and loving relationships Darrell had with each of his family. Her bubby in Dayton was impressed to hear about Darrell, but wasn't so sure about his value for mishpacha. She wasn't quite sure with a last name like Young that he knew what mishpacha meant, until he said Yonkowski, reminding her of a family's long heritage and pride in Judaism. In other words, without having to proclaim it in so many words, Darrell was speaking fluent bubby, conveying to her, "I'm the Jewish boy you want for your granddaughter." Similarly, when Darrell might be hurting, or on the few occasions he might have ever doubted himself in relationship to living up to the respect that he had for his own father, Howard, Andy could remind him. He knew how much he revered, how much he respected and loved him, and she was right. and he listened. You helped him, Andy, to live the life he wanted, and he stood right behind you in every dimension of seeking your own highest aspirations. He loved making Shabbos with you, cherishing sacred time with you. Shabbos isn't just a word in this house about Friday nights. It's a symbol of connection and a strong will that will never sever. Shabbos was a symbol of the two of you making a home together where your son's values could help them reach their own stars. You've raised caring and soulful sons who, like their dad, sadly know at too early an age in their life what it feels like when your dad passes away. But they also know they gave as good as they got. Spencer will speak in a few moments and share some of the things that made him such an incredible dad to him and to Jordan, such a proud papa bear to the entire family's worth of cousins, nieces, and nephews on both Darrell and Andrea's side, all of whom are bereft at his loss and have set this hour aside from near and far to pay attention to the legacy of Uncle Darrell. Neil and Stephen and Brian's kids and the nieces and nephews as well on Andy's side, Chad, Rachel, Jacqueline, Ian, Adam, Hayden, Marnie, Hayden, there's 2 Haydens, Brett, Jeremy, Kara, Kyle, Danielle, and Alex. He teased each one of those people. He prodded and poked them, and he felled over them, and he couldn't stop giving to them. He made time more sacred and more precious. He seized the day when he was with his nieces and nephews, and he stole moments from their tomorrows. If he would have, he could have. Ian remembers how special it was to grab time with Uncle Darrell and Spencer when they were on an FIDF mission in Israel. Adam can't get out of his mind how Darrell came up with hiding the afikoman somewhere on his own body. I didn't ask where. But just to mess with his nephews. His nieces told me they never really saw him mad. Some of you don't have that issue. He could get loud and passionate and protective, but if he was about to leap too far into the deep end, Andy could hold him back. What would the boys think, she asked. That worked pretty much every time. It did fail at least once when Darrell decided to steal the wooden ears from a bunny rabbit sculpture in Brian and Dee Dee's home and hid the ears underneath Brian and Dee Dee's bed covers. Rachel said of her uncle he was attentive, soft, and sweet, in addition to being so big and strong and positive. There are old home movies from a family visit to Chautauqua that she not long ago saw, which were focused on her as a little girl, where Uncle Darrell is clearly the one behind the camera, trying to help his Rach shine. Ellen felt this was something very special and remains true for her surviving brothers, conveying to their nieces and nephews every possible form of help, every praise when they've acted of their own accord and gone on to do things that Darrell wouldn't or couldn't have done. Wendy said that just the other night, as the family was allowing the reality to sink in of this cavernous loss, what was missing at their family dinner was Darrell. His chair was empty. Friends, Judaism tells us what we have to do today. Not deny the emptiness when a loved one's passing empties their chair. We dare not pretend it isn't painful to surrender the physical presence of someone who is bigger than life. It's more than a pinch of sadness. It hurts. The chair is empty. But if death had touched any one of us, my family or yours, any one of us in this room or who are watching this service online, Dale Young will be right there for your people. So none of us should deny it's a trauma to lose him. But he earned the place at our table, and he will sit beside us today at Shiva and in the coming days and hours. All the more so, he will walk at our side when we leave this valley of shadows. and go to the place where his cup runneth over. So friends, let's find a way to get out into the sunlight. I know it's February and we're in Cleveland. The sky is as gray and cloudy as it ever is. Darrell's telling us to keep walking. Walk until you find a place where you can see light. Humble as he was, he didn't realize how radiant he was. Like Moses coming down from the mountain, not aware of how blinding was the light that he own shined. This is when Darrell would say, "Rabbi, shut up already. I wasn't Moses." But if we fear drowning in our own hardships, Darrell's telling us, Adonai roi lo echsar. The Lord is our shepherd. Darrell was ours. To get to where we need to go next, Darrell Young says, find the light. Echo his deeds. Comfort his loved ones. Walk to where his life will always shine. Amen.
Adonai roi lo echsar binot deshe yarbitzeni al mei menuchot Inaleni Nafshi shovev Ishovev Yancheni b'maglei tzedek Yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo Gam ki eilech begeitz al mavet lo irara ki ata imadi shiftecha umishantecha hema inachamuni taharoch lefanai Shulchan neged tzorerai Dishanta vashemen roshi kosi revaya Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shafti beveit Adonai leorech yamim Adonai roi lo echsar Adonai roi lo echsar.
My father, Darrell Young, had distilled the meaning of his life unusually early on into three very focused themes: family, community, and leadership. He was a peak success in all three areas, more so than he ever truly understood. I never once witnessed him stopping to assess any of the impact he had, because that was time taken away from forging ahead. That was his leadership style. It wasn't about him. He wanted you better off somehow if he could make that happen. He truly loved having the opportunity to make a difference. While everyone understands the value of doing a good turn, it's unusual to find a guy who prefers it over almost anything else. It was his nature. He spent his life giving to his family, giving to his community, and there was no other gear for him. There is no doubt that his remarkable parents, Howard and Mardell Young, played a huge role in inspiring this drive and love for his city, his family, and his community. He leaves to us, like his father, excellent properties and organizations that have stood the test of time. He leaves to us a large family who adored him and who were closer to each other in many ways because of his efforts to ensure that, and just because he enjoyed it. The only success that truly meant anything to him can be seen in the seats and rows and aisles in front of and behind and around you right now. What he would love about this morning is not that you are here for him, though he would prefer a different reason for sure, but that you are here together, that so many of you know each other, that so many of you who loved him also love each other, and help each other, and show up for each other, and try to elevate each other. That you show up for each other, and then you show up for the community. And in this way, you build a better world for yourselves and for each other, and in turn, for the larger world as those efforts radiate out. So many of you in this room are part of a city and community that is unique and special in its depth of heart and even better action on behalf of making the world a better place. My dad recognized how special this city and community are in recent years. In recent years, I spent more and more time talking to him about how there is almost nowhere like this part of the world. More specifically, the people. He responded with a knowing, proud nod. He was proud that I had come to see it too. Now, through you and through time and age, I have come to more fully understand the impact that my father had. And I only identify it in this writing so that it can be fully handed back to you to carry on, here or wherever you might be returning to. My father had an unyielding belief in honesty, especially when difficult, fairness, especially when difficult, and doing the right thing. You can guess the parenthetical right by now. Taking the high road when it's convenient and handed to you on a silver platter is one thing. Doing it when the conditions are different is a whole other matter. And that's what Darrell Allen Young was about. Thank you everybody for being here. And I just also want to add one more thing, and that is that my father's entire life was involved in some way with the Jewish community and Israel. And on behalf of him, I want to say, Am Yisrael Chai.
take this moment to look for solace in the abiding verses of Psalm 34. These words remind us of the importance of speaking kindness and seeking goodness in our lives. Mihaish, these words invite us to reflect on the enduring wisdom found in the sacred text, offering a gentle embrace during this time of grief. We join together in the hope that Darrell's spirit finds tranquility in the memories that we all share, and that his loved ones are surrounded by comfort, support, and love. Mihaish hafetz chaim, ohev yamim, ohev yamim lirotov. Mihaish hafetz chaim, ohev yamim, ohev yamim lirotov. Netzor leshon chamera usfatecha midaber mirma, sur meira vasetov bakesh shalom verodvehu. Mihaish hechafetz chaim, ohev yamim, ohev yamim lirotov.
The family would like me to clarify that in addition to this afternoon, they will be sitting Shiva on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday from 2 to 4 in the afternoon and 6:30 to 8:30 in the evening. I invite you to rise for El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kizora Et nishmat David Hershel Ben Chaim Zalman Mardel Shalach Leolamo Bal Harachamim Yastirehu B'Seit Agnav Leo Et nishmatu Adonai unachalato Ve'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo ve'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Darrell A. Young, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.